What's up, kiddos? Trowbro is back with another drawing with Trowbro, and today we're going to be looking at how to draw the cutest character ever. I'm talking about the child, also known as Baby Yoda. So get your pencils and paper ready and let's dive right in. Alright, so here we have the cutest thing since Charlie bit my finger is Baby Yoda, also known as the child because, it's not actually Baby Yoda, it's just the same species as Yoda. And just like all my other how to draw videos, I have broken down Baby Yoda into the basic simple shapes that make up his body. And what's kind of funny is as I was kind of tracing these shapes of his head and then where his body would be underneath this big, robe, is that he kind of reminds me of Pikachu. And so I'm going to get started drawing on the right, and so if you've never drawn Pikachu before, I have another video on my channel on how to draw him, but it's very similar. It's kind of like a circle on the top with like a bell type body. And so I start with drawing little lines on the top and the bottom to make sure I know exactly how tall and how big he's going to be. And so I start with this nice round head. It's kind of like a basketball that's been kind of squished down a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to go after his ears. And now, when I drew the basic shapes, he has a little bit of little accents, like sometimes the lines they'll dip down, or they have like a hill type shape, and so I simplified it. Alright, so his ears aren't really this shape, and so I'm going to be drawing very lightly, because I know I'm going to have to erase here in a little bit. And so, draw lightly, don't push down very hard on your pencil, and if you feel like I'm going too fast, it's okay to pause it or to rewind it. Alright, and then I also draw this little plus sign on his head, and that's going to help me make sure that his eyes and his nose and his mouth are in the right spot. You'll probably also notice that I drew his head through his robe. Alright, I just drew a circle because even though you can't see all of it, I know it's there. So I'm drawing the shapes so you can see how Baby Yoda is made. He's made up with shapes, and these are the shapes that make up his body. Alright, now I'm moving on to his collar, which is these kind of weird looking trapezoid shapes, which are, trapezoids, if you don't know, are kind of like fancy rectangles, except the bottom is maybe a little bit wider. So that's what a trapezoid is. You can Google it later. But what's really important is I'm looking at his collar, and I'm kind of noticing the shapes that it makes with the lines that make up his head. So the lines that make up his head and the lines that make up his collar, alright, there's these shapes that are created. And so I'm trying to recreate those shapes the best I can. Alright, that's kind of what all drawing is looking and seeing what shapes you see and how big they are compared to the other lines and the other shapes that you see. So I'm drawing my collar, and what's kind of funny about this Baby Yoda is I thought, oh man, this is going to be really simple, but I think in reality it took me one of the longest times to draw it, and I don't know if that's because there's all these little details and stuff, but it took me almost an hour to sit here and draw all of Yoda. But I kind of I speed it up, make it faster for you guys, so you don't have to sit here for an hour and watch me. Alright, then for his body, it's kind of like another trapezoid shape, kind of gets wider at the end, kind of like a fat bell. Alright, I'm just going to kind of go around. Two lines going down, and then one horizontal line that kind of bellows. Bellows is kind of like a curve, it means curved, kind of curves at the end. And then even though I didn't actually draw his physical body, alright, it is underneath there, underneath that robe. And so I'm kind of drawing those lines. It's going to help us make sure that we put his feet where they need to be, alright, because his feet are coming right off those little lines that I drew. So those should be just little guidelines to help you. So make sure you're drawing lightly because we will erase them. Alright, now for his hands and his sleeves, they're kind of like two little barrel shapes. So there's one on each side, and then for his feet, they're kind of like, I don't know, football shapes. They're kind of like curved, but they're not finished football shapes. So they're kind of like really elongated C shapes. Alright. Alright, so now that I have the basic shapes done, let's bring back my picture of Baby Yoda. And I'm going to start with these big old eyes, one of the most cutest eyes that I've ever seen in my life. And in order to help me draw these eyes and make sure they're the right shape, I'm going to draw another horizontal line on the top of his eyes. Alright, and then I'm going to draw that kind of over here on the left, and it's going to help me make sure that his eyes are the same shape. Now, when you go to draw these eyeballs, okay, sometimes characters have one eye bigger than the other, but most of them do not. So therefore, you're going to want to make sure that you draw these horizontal lines so you make sure the eyes are the same shape. And these eyes are a little different. They're kind of like bowl shapes, but they're kind of like offset. So one edge is a little bit higher than the other. And so you have these two bowls that are kind of off-centered. Think when you draw or write the letter N, you start on the line, you go up and you come down on that same line. But imagine if you started a little bit higher and you went down a little bit further. It's kind of like that. One on top and then one on the bottom. Kind of like footballs, but they're slanted. Alright?
All right, now for his eyeballs, there are a couple little glares, a couple big ones, and then you see a little bit of his iris. It's kind of brown, and so the shapes, I think they look kind of like seeds, maybe a teardrop. So I'm going to draw them and draw lightly, and I will color it in later, the actual black part. I feel like, what makes him so cute is it looks like his eyeball is just all pupil. And usually that's kind of like a sign of, what's the word? Innocence, like he's adorable, he's innocent, he's cute. Alright, I'm going to finish up with drawing his little eyelash that's kind of coming off the side of each. And then I'm going to draw his little eyelid. It's kind of like a little hill that is right above his eye. And then I think one of the funniest things is, since he is a baby and he's the same species as Yoda, he's got like this wrinkly forehead. And so in this picture on the left, the wrinkles, it looks kind of like a heart, like right there in the middle, but it doesn't have like the point at the bottom, but it's just like those two little curves. And then there's like another little arch that kind of follows the same as his eyelid. So I'm going to draw that. I'm not going to draw his hair yet, because I'm going to wait until I erase some of this stuff, because I feel like the hair is going to be pretty easy, and I want to make sure that it's basically done before I do that. Alright, now I'm going to go around Baby Yoda's head and draw all the little weird bumps and hills that I see on his head. So like it dips down here, then I'm going to kind of go around his ears and draw the shapes that I see there. And even though I kind of drew a generic, like here's an ear, like he has these interesting curves that kind of like hill up or go down, and so I'm going to try to draw all those the best that I can. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I see on his collar, how it kind of has like that turn in where it kind of bends right there on the left and on the right. I'm going to do both of those and draw the little wrinkles and fabric folds that I see. There's one on each side, kind of like a greater than, less than symbol. I'm going to draw those too. Alright, let's go ahead and start drawing Baby Yoda's sleeve and his little fingers coming out of it. And I feel like this is probably definitely the easiest part of this whole draw, is his sleeve and his fingers, because it's got a lot of arch shapes. An arch kind of like the letter U, and so it kind of just like curves a little bit, bellows a little. And his fingers, notice that one is kind of a little skinny, and then a little bit one is a little wider maybe. So his first finger, little pointer finger, and then he's got kind of like a little stubby thumb-like shape. So don't forget to draw that. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and draw some of the details that I see in his robe. A couple of the little folds and wrinkles and kind of the seam of where, the left side of his robe meets the right side. Kind of like a curved, really shallow S-type shape right there that goes all the way down. And then I'm going to draw the kind of the left and right side of his robe. And kind of notice on the right side there's kind of like that little bump. So it kind of goes down and then curves and comes out a little bit. Because sometimes, like when fabric hits the ground, it kind of comes out a little bit. So don't forget that little curve right there. And then go ahead and do the robe kind of like curves around each one of those little football shapes we drew for his foot. Alright, now Baby Yoda's feet are very similar to his hands. You got that kind of little curve of his robe that goes over his feet, but his feet are little like C shapes. Alright, so you kind of just draw that little curve. And then remember his pinky toe is kind of in front of the other one, so I always draw whatever's in front first, because it's easier to draw the one behind it, so it kind of comes right off of it behind it. And you kind of just use that little football shape that we drew first to kind of help you. And then for his little toenails, they're little oval shapes right there at the end. Not too bad. And I'm going to finish drawing these little folds that I see kind of at his feet, where the fabric is folding on his robe. And with that, I'm going to finish by drawing his fingernails, and then after that, I feel like I have drawn all the lines and shapes that I see on the left, and now my favorite part, well, my second favorite part, and I think I like probably the erasing the best, but I'm going to go and redefine all of the lines that I want to keep. That means I'm going to go draw over all the lines that are good and push down a little bit harder on my pencil. Now at this point, if you wanted to color it, instead of going over with your pencil darker, you would use like a Sharpie or a marker or like a paintbrush, like use like black India ink. So it's really up to you how you want to color it. Like if I'm using black like markers or something, or if I was coloring it with markers, I'd use black last, because like, if you go to do black first and then you color that light green, the minute that light green would touch the black marker, it would it kind of like mixes a little bit and then like ruins your marker. And so like with markers you always kind of go light to dark, but if you're using ink and like Sharpies, it's waterproof, so you don't have to worry about it bleeding at all. So now I'm going to speed this up and see what it looks like. Alright, now that I got all my darkened lines down, I am going to get my eraser and clean up all my unwanted lines, all those little light lines that I drew earlier to kind of define my shape. I'm going to clear those out, erase them, erase my little plus sign in his face where his body was, and you're going to really start to see Baby Yoda start to come out of this drawing. It's going to really pop, and I think it looks pretty good.
Well, kiddos, I hope you had fun drawing Baby Yoda with me. If you want me to showcase the drawing that you made today, have your parents email me right here, my email address, and on my next video, which I think I'm going to be drawing some Black Panther, I will showcase your picture of Baby Yoda. So I'll see you next time.